Hello and welcome to the Success Showcase. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin from the Modern Observer Group. Chip is on vacation this week, but with me is Theresa DeGray from Consumer Legal Services. Theresa, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm so glad you could join us.
Yes, me too. I'm very excited about this.
Now, today we're going to be talking about overcoming obstacles and getting a fresh start. And that's why we invited Theresa, because this is something that Theresa not only has done herself, but helped others do. So, Theresa, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do in your legal practice and give our listeners a little background?
Sure. Most of my practice is dedicated to consumer bankruptcy. Some of it is dedicated also to foreclosure defense. So I basically help people get fresh starts or deal with financial crises surrounding foreclosure. Some of my practice is also dedicated to family matters such as divorce, probate, custody issues, stuff like that, but that's a very small part. So the reason why I practice all these types of things is because of my own story, my own journey. Years ago, when I got out of college and law school, I had a lot of debt, so I actually ended up filing bankruptcy myself, and I can tell you the whole detailed story if you want to hear it. But it led me to practice in those areas after I had finished practicing mostly divorce, custody, and probate. The divorce and custody was difficult emotionally, and I was getting married at the time, so it was kind of hard thing to reconcile getting married and working in this field. And then all these financial issues with my clients started to pop up, so I started to gear my practice that way, and I left the family lawyer that I was working for and I opened my own practice. So that's how it just sort of organically grew itself into the practice that it is today. So I guess you can say that I practice what I preach, or I preach what I practice.
Either way.
Because I went through the whole bankruptcy process myself. So it's something that I know, from both sides of the aisle, I guess you could say.
Now, there's a lot of misconceptions that people have about bankruptcy and how people get there. Now, in your case, you had to deal with health problems, and it was those mounting bills that caused you to look into bankruptcy, isn't it?
Yes. So the reason why I personally filed bankruptcy was mostly for medical issues. I had been diagnosed with lupus when I was 16 years old, and I didn't have health insurance while I was in law school, and I got very sick and ended up in the hospital before, after, and during law school. Um, and I'm in full remission right now from the lupus, thank God. But it created sort of this snowball effect where I was sick, so I had all these mounting medical bills. I was going to school, so I couldn't work full time. So then I created credit card debt. And then when I got out of law school, it all culminated with the student loans. So it was literally sitting at my desk every Friday when I got my paycheck, and saying to myself, okay, this whole paycheck's going to have to go to medical debt, and this whole paycheck's going to have to go to credit cards, and this whole paycheck's going to have to go towards my student loans, and then this whole paycheck's going to have to go towards, a car payment. So I was totally paralyzed, actually. I couldn't move out of my parents' house. I couldn't really even get married, because how could you get married in that type of a financial situation? And it was just a horrible situation. So I ended up going to an attorney that I had worked for years before, who was a bankruptcy specialist, and I sat down with him and cried and went through the whole thing. And he said, listen, you have absolutely nothing to lose. You don't have a home. You don't have, massive amounts of jewelry or money or anything like that. Just file bankruptcy and get rid of all your debt except the student loans because they're not dischargeable. And then just start over, get the fresh start and move on. And then you can, move out of your parents' house and actually have a place of your own to live and get married and all of those things. And that's exactly what I did. The conversation that I had with him was literally the organic scaffolding or the groundwork that was put forth throughout the rest of my life. So ever since that conversation, every step I've taken has undone what had previously been done in a horrible way and then recreated this wonderful life. So when people say, oh my God, I would never file bankruptcy, it's so horrible and it's so embarrassing and it's so this and it's so that and it ruins you. No, wrong. That's my answer. No, that's wrong. My answer is it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And people say, oh my God, how can you say that? And then I have to tell them this story that I just told you. And then they realize, wow, she's right. And it was, or it was at least the best thing that ever happened to her. And it could be for me too. And, and then I go out and I file bankruptcies for people, and it literally is the best thing that ever happened to them. And when they're done with the process and they see me for the last time at court and we walk out together, inevitably, 9 times out of 10, man, woman, old, young, it doesn't matter, I get a hug in the middle of, the square in New Haven, and sometimes they're in tears, happy tears, and they realize, oh my God, the weight is lifted. Either I saved their house, or I got them out of debt, or whatever it was that was their personal financial crisis has just been resolved, and resolved to satisfaction. Whereas, in my previous life as a full-time divorce attorney, when you walked out of court and you got somebody divorced, everybody walked away not happy.
Right.
Everybody walked away broken and hurt. And it was never, sometimes you see like on the Real Housewives or whatever, they'll have like a divorce party. I've never experienced one of those. All the divorces I've done, it's never been, really a celebration. It's sad, especially when there's kids involved. And I still do those cases, and I still, kind of walk around with it burdening me because I take it all personally. I mean, it's not, these people that I help are not just people off the street, they're my clients. When you come in and you become my client, you become part of, the Consumer Legal Services family. I mean, it's all completely one-on-one. I have small staff that are all part-time. Everything my clients do is done directly with me. So, from the first initial phone call, they get a person on the phone, and then they get a free meeting with me face-to-face. And then after that, if they hire me and retain me, then it's all just me, one-on-one with the clients. And some part of that is a customer service. There's a customer service background to that. But mostly it's just because that's the real way that you practice law. I mean, they're your clients, that they're the captains that are, driving the boat, if you will.
Now, when somebody comes to you, I mean, obviously they're in a certain amount of distress with what's going on in their lives. And you can appreciate that because you went through the same thing. How does that transition take where they're feeling, oh my God, I don't know what I can do? And as the process goes on, can you describe the change in them when they suddenly realize, wait a minute, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, there is a way out of here?
Yes. So sometimes that happens kind of before they get to me, because sometimes I get a personal referral from one attorney to me, or previous clients will refer family members or friends to me. So they're sort of teed up for me. They've already maybe gone online and read my story, or their friend or family member or referral source has told them about me. And then sometimes they don't know anything about me. They just find me on Google or the internet or whatever, or Facebook or Twitter or whatever I'm on, whatever platform they find me on. And they'll show up for the free initial consultation, just like wound really tight and very upset and defensive sometimes. And I'll sit down with them and I'll say, listen, you're in a tough financial spot. The first thing I do is I just let them unload on me. So as soon as we walk in and sit down and all the niceties are done, hey, how are you and all that stuff, then it's how can I help you? And that's how I start every single appointment I've had since I started doing this. And they tell me their whole story. They just kind of like, I don't want to say puke or vomit because that's horrible. You have to edit that out. But they just unload this whole story on me. And then as soon as I feel that they're kind of, got it off their chest, then I'll say, okay, listen, this is what I'm going to do, and this is what I do for everyone. I'm going to analyze all your circumstances based on these questions that I'm going to ask you. And it's going to take about 20 minutes. I'm going to ask you all of these questions. It's going to give me your whole entire financial picture and some general background information about you. And then I'm going to tell you exactly what my plan is for you and what the strategy is to get you out of the debt or save your home or, whatever it is that they need at that moment. And that's what we do. We go through this entire questionnaire. It's 19 pages long. It's about all questions. The first 5 pages is the questionnaire. The next 14 pages, that's 5 and 14 is 19, right?
Yes.
A bankruptcy attorney that doesn't know how to do math. So the rest of the package of papers are all disclosure documents, and they explain to people, what the process of bankruptcy is and what the steps you have to take are and what our privacy guidelines are and all of that stuff. So we go through all of that, and by the end of the appointment, I have a really great feel for what's going on, and they have a plan in place, so they feel like they've accomplished something, they've gotten something for their hour of time that they've given me, and they have a plan on what to do and how to stop the crisis and turn it around. So I think that when folks call and they say, I have a live receptionist that answers the phone 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and when they call and say, I'm just calling to get the prices. I'm just calling to get a quote. I'm just calling to find out how much it costs to file bankruptcy. The receptionist is taught and instructed to explain to them that that's just not how it works. Attorney DeGray can't legally just, quote some fees and all that stuff over the phone. She has to know you and meet you and find out what you need from her. And then she can give you the strategy and the quote and all that. And I think once the clients realize that, oh, okay, I went through all this for a reason, and I've gotten something very concrete and very substantial and a plan and a strategy to put forth, that they automatically feel relaxed, more comfortable, at ease, hopeful. And that is the biggest sort of theme of my entire practice, my entire career, is hope. When you go to law school or when you get into college or all that, where you have to write an essay and everything, everybody always asks you, well, what do you want to be when you grow up and why? And, it's always when you grow up and you want to be a lawyer, it's to help people. Well, yeah, that's great. But really what you're doing is you're giving them hope. And that's what the bankruptcy attorney that I went to gave me that day in my initial consultation with him. He gave me hope that this isn't the end of the line. This isn't the end of my world. This isn't a reason to kill myself or break down or have a nervous breakdown or anything like that. This is just literally a bump in the road. And that's why the government, this horrible government that we have, but this wonderful government that we have created this bankruptcy program, and it's in the Constitution. It's your constitutional right to file bankruptcy and get a fresh start, and nobody knows that because for some reason, and I don't know where this came from, all anybody knows is the bad part of the bankruptcy. Oh my God, my credit's ruined. People are going to find out. Are they going to put it in the newspaper? No, doesn't go in the newspaper. Yes, it's public record. It's very difficult to find out somebody filed bankruptcy. You got to go on this thing called Pacer online, and you have to pay for it. You have to pay for the information. So it's very difficult to figure out somebody filed bankruptcy. And I tell folks all the time, I'm like, listen, it's between me and you. You know, that's it, period, end of story. And it's up to you whether or not you tell anyone about this. And I especially counsel young couples with young children, and I say, listen, this is the best thing you could ever do for your children because they're young and they don't know that you've made these mistakes and that you're going to correct them. And you can tell them later when they're adults and they understand and all that. But all they want to know is that mommy and daddy are happy and mommy and daddy can co-sign my student loans for me when I get to be old enough to go to college. And you folks won't be able to do any of those wonderful things for your children if you have crushing debt yourself. So, you know, I tell the young couples with the young kids, do it now, get it over with. By the time the kids are ready to go to college, your credit is golden and you're happy and you can provide for these kids in any meaningful way that you need to. And that's a wonderful thing. I give people a lot of hope that way. And so I'm paying it forward. Somebody gave me hope and I got the fresh start and now I'm turning it around for other people. And somebody once said to me, what you do is a ministry. It's not just a practice of law. And I've taken that with me. You know, that's every little thing somebody says to me like that. I love it. It goes with me, you know, and it comes and it becomes part of my personality and all that. I love that stuff.
Yeah. You just said something that I think is very important to reiterate. You said, you know, when you're talking to these folks, said nobody knows that you made these mistakes. And I think that's something key that people don't realize. People who are declaring bankruptcy and getting themselves this fresh start, they made mistakes. And generally,
Right.
when someone makes a mistake, you don't blame them for making a mistake. It's something that happened. You tried something that didn't work. We
Right.
talk a lot on this podcast about taking chances and, you know, making mistakes and learning from your mistakes. So I think that's something that people need to realize when they think about bankruptcy is that, yes, these were mistakes that were made. It's not that you're this terrible person that's trying to get out of, you know, money that you owe. These were things that did not work properly, and now you're trying to fix them.
Right. And you can talk on a technical level about that with regard to, you know, predatory lending, for instance, you know, with the banks that were giving out mortgages to anybody that showed up, or a credit card company that says, how much do you make every year? And the person puts down the gross instead of the net, and then they get a huge credit limit, and they're like, oh cool, I got this huge credit limit, you know, I'll spend it up, I'll buy furniture for my house, or I'll do this or I'll do that, and then, you know, I'll pay it off over time, and then they lose their job, or they divorce, or somebody gets sick or something, or they have, you know, a child with a disability that they have to really pay attention to and buy certain things for, or put them in a certain special school or classes or whatever. You know, it's life that gets in the way of your, you know, oh, I'll just pay that off when I, you know, over time when I can. Well, yeah, but maybe now you can't. So it's no one's fault that you're here in this situation most of the time. It's not like you did this intentionally. I had the rate of recidivism of people, serial filers of bankruptcy, very low, obviously. You can only file bankruptcy once every 8 years. And there are those folks, don't get me wrong, that come back every 8 years and, you know, they want to file. But very rare, you know, 99.9% of my clients will sit here in my office and say to me, I've tried every which way to pay these bills. I've sat at my kitchen table and I've said to myself, do I buy groceries? Do I pay for medical care copays or prescription drug copays? Or do I pay my minimums on my credit cards? These are the real choices that these folks have to make on a daily basis. This isn't, I'm going to run the credit cards up and go buy big screen TVs and electronics and all this, and then, oh yeah, I'll just declare bankruptcy. I mean, nobody thinks that way, or at least I hope they don't, but I don't think they do. They don't tell me that they do. Most of my clients that come to me are normal, hard-working, everyday, family-oriented people who have either made financial errors or mistakes or didn't calculate their income properly on a financial statement, or didn't do something that, didn't apply for something that they could handle, things like that. So it's simple mistakes like that, or just not even mistakes, pure intentions that they have that can lead them here. I just mentioned the predatory lending and the mortgages. I mean, there's, those are not mistakes. Those are not financial errors. Those are not, using your gross income versus your net income to apply for a loan when you don't know the difference. It's the banks were handing out mortgages, and people got into these mortgages and their income couldn't support the mortgages, and they've gotten into foreclosure over it. And sometimes now, because we're so far away from that financial crisis, it's years down the line, they've already gotten modifications or they've already refinanced their mortgages, and they're coming to me because they're at the end of their line. What do they do now to save their family home? I have one client who's lived in her house for 10 years. She hasn't paid her mortgage at all, and she's gone through several different types of bankruptcies, several different types of foreclosure mediation, and it's finally, come to the point where there's nothing else I can do for her as an attorney. She'd have to go out and get a hard money loan to stay in the house. But I've given her all of this time, and I've helped her, and I've done everything above board, and we've done everything we can. But she understands, obviously, it's just not going to work because, her husband lost his job, and she changed jobs, and some kids went to college, and, money goes in different directions now, and things happen for different reasons. And it's not her fault, and it wasn't really a mistake. It was just the way that it was. 10 years ago, when she got the mortgage and all that happened, she and her husband were making the money to support their household and their income. I mean, their household and their bills. So, it's some are mistakes, some are pure intentions. And what I'm designed to do is to help them get to, the next step or the next strategy in their life to either move on or keep their house. I say to people all the time, I say there's certain types of bankruptcies that can either save your home and keep you in the home or allow you to exit gracefully. And I think that that's a really important distinction to make when you're talking about bankruptcy and foreclosure. Some people, they're not abusing the system. They're just trying to get out of the mistakes that they've made or the position they've been put in gracefully without ruining their credit or without ruining their future. So there's processes and procedures in place to allow them to do that. There's this wonderful thing called Chapter 7 bankruptcy that helps people exit their houses if they need to. There's some things called Chapter 13 bankruptcy that helps people stay in their house if they need to and can. And there's all kinds of different techniques and reasons why you would employ each chapter. So when people come to see me for that free consultation, we sit down and we go through all of those options and all of the pros and cons and how it would help these particular folks in these particular situations. And then we design a strategy around that. Obviously, I quote them a fee, and then we do a payment plan. And, it gives people hope. It's a wonderful thing. I don't know how anybody could ever say anything bad about bankruptcy.
Well, I think part of the problem is people have almost been trained to think, oh, you're not paying your debts. Oh, that's a bad thing. But as you've been saying, these are people who ended up in situations beyond their control. They may have made a mistake. They may have completely had everything under control before situations changed. And right. I think it's very important for people to understand that this This is simply a process for dealing with that crisis. It shouldn't be assigned blame or shame or it's hard for people to accept help in many cases, but that's what this is there for.
Yes, and I've had a lot of people come to me and they'll be at least open-minded enough to get here and talk to me. And then sometimes I get the people that'll say, I still can't do it. I still can't file bankruptcy. I'll figure out another way. I'll do something else, and it's those people that usually either come back to me when it's almost too late or come back to me when it's too late. And that's when when it's too late is when somebody's actually physically removing you from your home because it foreclosed, or when a credit card company has sued you and gotten a judgment against you and is garnishing your wages for 25% every week. So some of those things can be undone. I don't want to freak people out. I can fix a garnishment with a bankruptcy and all kinds of different things. But if it passes over a law day, which is the end of a foreclosure, that's the technical legal term, a law day, title passes back to the bank, and there's nothing I can do about it. So I just want to, anybody that's listening to this podcast needs to know that the earlier during the crisis and the sooner you can, seek help, whether it's me or another lawyer or a lawyer that's local to you. If this podcast is, sent out to the whole world, just go see a lawyer at the earliest point in time, because it's always best to get, help quickly and fix things before they get totally out of hand or go past the point of no return. Because the worst thing to do is to go to a lawyer after the fact, because most of the time the lawyer can't, create magic
Right.
and fix it and turn it around.
But
I can do a lot of... No, I don't have a magic wand. I can do a lot of great things for a lot of people, but timing in the law is a huge thing. Deadlines, law days, all kinds of response dates and all that timing. Timing is a very big issue. So, I see a lot of people, I think it was a year or two ago, I can't remember. It was the holidays were during this weird, it was like, I don't know, Christmas fell on like a Wednesday or something. And by that next weekend, I had like 5 people in my office saying, oh my God, my law day is tomorrow. And we had to file all these emergency bankruptcies to stop the law day from the title passing back to the bank for the houses, because it was like there's some sort of moratorium or something that they put in place where they can't have a law day during the 2 weeks of Christmas and New Year's, but as soon as the New Year holiday is over, it all, happens.
That's right.
So, and these people are so wrapped up in everything with the holidays that they're like, oh my God, and then they show up in my office. But thank God they didn't come after the fact, because then I wouldn't be able to do anything for them. But actually, just as an aside, one of the folks that that happened to a year or two ago, she was just in my office the other day, and we fixed everything for her. She got a mortgage modification. She's, back to working full time, and she's living in her house, and she gets to keep her house, and she's going to be able to have the holidays this year with her family in that beautiful home. So, it's stories like that keep me going and get me out of bed every day.
That's it. It's tough going through, but you have that happy ending at the end that makes it worthwhile. All right, we're just about at the end of our time. So, Theresa, if there's one thing you want our listeners to take away from this, what would it be?
Seek help immediately. If there's any type of legal crisis that you think a lawyer could help you with, or even if you don't even think a lawyer can help you with, seek help. Call 211, which is in Connecticut, and you'll be directed to the legal aid if you can't afford an attorney. And if you can afford an attorney, or you're not sure if you can afford an attorney, just open up the phone book or go on Google. I don't know who uses the phone book anymore, but it sounds good. But go on Google and just find a local attorney. It doesn't have to be somebody that even practices in the area that you need help in. And just go and talk, because attorneys are not trained in law school for one thing, one practice. They're trained to help everyone. So every attorney can sit down with you and talk to you and analyze your circumstances. And then if they can't help you, they know someone that can. So that's my pitch to everybody. If you have a crisis, come and see me. I'll give you a free hour of my time and a strategy or a referral to somebody that can help you. So I can help you no matter what.
All right. I think, the big takeaway I'd like everybody to remember is whether your problem is legal or not, it is always a good idea to take on your problems head on as early as possible. The longer you wait, the worse it gets. So take care of things as soon as you can. You've been listening to the Success Showcase. You can catch us every week at blogtalkradio.com/Success Showcase. You can also find us on the Apple Podcasts app in the iTunes Store or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Remember, make this your best week ever and make next week even better. See you then.